To Canton, Ohio, we're joined by the man who wrote the book on the Redskins, the author of the Redskins Encyclopedia and a frequent guest on the show, Michael Richman, joining us now from Canton, Ohio. Michael, welcome to the show. And Art and Darrell going into the hall. I mean, this is just, it's a huge weekend for the Redskins, and you must be just having tingles.
I am. Well, this is a monumental weekend for the entire Redskins organization. Art Monk and Darrell Green are the first Redskin players to be inducted since 1992. Joe Gibbs went in 96 and George Allen in 2002. And in addition to Green and Monk, Emmett Thomas, a former Redskins assistant coach in the 80s and 90s, is going in. And the Redskins are playing in the Hall of Fame game Sunday night. So this is just a huge weekend for the entire organization. I would say it's the biggest weekend for the team since they played in Super Bowl 26 after the 91 season, or in the 91 season.
That's both amazing and a little bit sad in its own right. I'm just throwing that in editorially. You know, Michael, when we've been talking about Art Monk, he's gotten in on his 8th try now, and one of the knocks against him throughout the years was he didn't have those highlight moments, those Heisman moments that there would be in college football. And I'm wondering, you know, through your vast recollections, what would be the standout moments in Art Monk's Hall of Fame career?
Well, I want to argue a little against the fact that he didn't have that signature spectacular catch. In a Monday night game, the Redskins are playing the Giants at RFK Stadium, 1985. Joe Theismann suffers that hideous-looking injury. In comes Jay Schrader, unproven quarterback. I believe he had only thrown 8 passes in his career. His first pass, he hits Monk down the right sideline, a 44-yard bomb. Monk catches the ball parallel to the ground, pulls it in, great reception. Redskins go on to score. They beat the Giants that night 23-21. So I guess in the whole big picture, Monk was not that spectacular type receiver. He was more of a possession receiver. But that is one example of a spectacular catch that he had.
Hey, Al Galdi here. Darrell Green, you talk about signature plays. I think there's 3 that really come up a lot. The Dorsett rundown, the return against the Bears, and the deflection against the Vikings in the NFC title game. I have one in the back of my mind, and maybe you can help me out in terms of pinpointing the details. I want to say it was 1992, an overtime game against the Oilers where he had a key interception. Does that ring a bell at all?
I remember him having an interception in overtime in that game, and it may have set up the winning score. I don't remember any more circumstances involving that.
Okay.
I believe that was the game that Jack Pardee was coaching the Oilers at the time, and they had the Redskins on the ropes that game, and it would have broken the Redskins, what was it, like a 10-game winning streak at the time, and the Redskins did pull it out in overtime.
You know, Michael, what strikes me now is with a guy like Darrell Green, with the speed that he possessed, if he were playing at this time, would the Redskins be thinking about using him on offense in the way that the Chicago Bears used Devin Hester on offense and plan to do more of this season?
That's a very good question. With his speed, he could definitely play receiver in the league. Charlie Casserly has told the story of how the Redskins were planning on using him as a receiver around the mid-'80s, but it just didn't work out. I think because they acquired Gary Clark from the USFL. They didn't put Green at receiver, but he was the fastest man in the NFL, 4-time fastest man in the league. He may have been the fastest person in the world. Darrell Grant, Redskins defensive lineman who played with Green for many years, told me that he encouraged Green to try out for the Olympics. He thought that Green was faster than Carl Lewis, but Green just decided not to do it. He may have been the fastest man on the planet, and I think he would have made a great receiver.
Well, maybe Mike, this is Josh Barr of the Washington Post. Maybe he can challenge Darrell Torres and go for the Olympics in a couple of weeks. What do you think?
I think he can still do it. I think he'd still make the team. He may still run. He may still run a 4.40.
We were talking earlier with Chick Hernandez about the other Redskins from that area who haven't made the Hall of Fame yet, and whether there's any movement. Do you get any sense, guys like Jacoby, Bostic, Russ Grimm, that it could be on the horizon for them?
I think that Russ Grimm is destined to go in. He's been a 4-time finalist, so who knows how long it's going to take. But at least one of the Hogs must be in the Hall of Fame. And then after Grimm, Jacoby has to go in. There are other players from that era, too. case in point, Gary Clark. He's been a preliminary nominee for the Hall of Fame. Brian Mitchell, too. I think he deserves to be in. Now, he was a pure special teamer, and I think that makes it a lot more difficult for him to enter the Hall. But the man had more than 19,000 return yards in his career, which I think today is an NFL record. So he deserves to be in. And even Mark Mosley, you can make a case for him. The guy was the NFL MVP in 1982, and he's the all-time leading scorer in Redskins history.
What about Hanburger? He's a 9-time Pro Bowler.
Absolutely. Number 55, and that's the number 55 everybody should remember. Yes, Jason Taylor's wearing it right now, but Chris Hanburger, 9-time Pro Bowler, he definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Now, if he were to get in, it would be through the Seniors Committee, and only 2 Hall of Famers are chosen through the Seniors Committee every year, so that makes it more difficult. But in addition to Hanburger, some other players from that era, Pat Fisher, I think he should get a serious look. Jerry Smith, the Redskins' great tight end in the 60s and 70s, he deserves to be in. Len Hauss, who was a great Redskins center in the 60s and 70s as well, he should be considered seriously for the Hall of Fame. In terms of Hanburger, I'd say one thing that could be hurting him is he had an ornery personality, and that could have rubbed some of the sports writers the wrong way. The argument has been made that that's one of the reasons for the delay with Monk. Not that he was ornery, that he was reticent in the locker room and wouldn't speak to reporters. But it's one thing that could have hurt Hanburger over the years too. But he was a great player.
Michael Richman, the author of the Redskins Encyclopedia, I think Volume 2 is probably in the works at this point with this weekend here with Art Monk and Darrell Green, and Joe Gibbs shows up in the Jim Zorn era. I think you got the workings of something new happening here. But we're going to have you on, I'm sure, again. And Michael, thanks so much for coming on Washington Post Live.
Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate being on. All
right, Michael Richman, the author of the Redskins Encyclopedia. Break time here. We got lots of leftovers to get to, so let's hit it. Brett Favre, what's the latest on him? There is news. There is news. And it's in the fridge, just waiting to come out. So stick around. We're coming back on Washington Post Live.